Good day, everyone. Hope everything's cheery and bright. So, I just wrapped up Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer series. That's available now on Netflix. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, a lot to unwind, and I'm gonna fill you in on as much as I can. All right, so sit back and relax. We got a jam-packed video here. So if you don't know the story behind this, what it's based on, Jeffrey Dahmer was a gentleman back in the late 80s, early 90s, and he committed some horrific crimes. And as the story goes, he took some people back to his apartment. He ended up drugging them and tortured them, and he did some not so nice things to them. So yeah, this series is a great representation of this man's life and how it all came to be. Now, when it comes to these particular series, there are always going to be standouts. And to me, obviously, the main character, the actor who plays Jeffrey Dahmer, is Evan Peters, who's been in a number of films, made some appearances in some shows, but his take on this individual is gut-wrenching, a Herculean performance as this sadistic, maybe some might say understood and man. He plays him so well. You know, I'm sure he did some research for the role. You could tell he, studied this person, and it shows on film. It shows throughout the series, and a lot of times I noticed there's a total of 10 episodes, and you go through these. You go through this person's life, Jeffrey Dahmer's life, from early on, early age from, all to, adulthood. And you don't see another thing I notice is his emotions. He's very, likes to keep to himself. Not so much shy, and there's times where he's in, and whether he'd be in a classroom or cafeteria, he'll do something absurd just to get people's attention, and you wonder, makes you wonder where his mental state is at. Like, for instance, he, in his teenage years, he starts to drink alcohol. And there's one particular scene that has him walk into class and open a can of beer. And as I'm sure as the result of that, it's not so good. It also touches on what may or may not have occurred to eventually him ending up being the way he choosing the choices in his how he became this monster. And early on, he was very close to his father. His father in the show is an actor named Richard Jenkins. Superb. He had a pivotal role as well in this. and he spent a lot of time with Jeff growing up, and he showed him, kind of this odd hobby of picking up roadkill and dissecting it, and that that might have set the wheels in motion, so to speak, of this path that Jeffrey chose for himself, some might say. And also there was some touches a little bit on Jeff's sexuality, and it goes down a dark road with that as well. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff to digest here, and it really it hits all the right notes as far as how well this series turned out, and everyone had a moment to shine. I feel like it was touched. It hit all the right notes from each all the episodes are about 40 to 50 minutes mark, and honestly, it was hard for me to get through this show because it's so not so much the graphics, the sexual themes, the language. It was just overall, it was depressing to watch this man go through life like this. and also I felt bad for him too. Growing up, he witnessed the desecration, the breakdown of his parents, and what their marriage came to be, which was ultimately it came down to divorce. And he had a younger brother, but they didn't the show didn't touch too much on it. So a lot of times his dad was gone out of business, out of town. His mother dealt with some issues as well, so she really wasn't in the picture all too much. So ultimately, Jeff was, kind of a loner. You could say he came from a broken home. So I'm sure those things that were showcased had something to do with the man who he became. And you feel for him for a little while, at least, until he's all grown up and on his own. There's a episode or two where he's staying with his grandmother, and he makes makes all the wrong choices while staying with his grandmother. But let me take you back to his childhood. Aside from the alcoholic behavior he develops later on, but he just had a hard time. I feel like mentally he something wasn't right in his head, and you could tell family life was a part of that, but I feel like there was a bigger picture that was just a puzzle piece to a bigger picture, I'd say. For instance, what I'm getting at is there's a scene in an episode where he's in a convenience store, clothing store, and he something catches his eye, and it's a mannequin. And so he thinks, hey, I will stay here until the store closes. And sure enough, he does. He gets away with he takes the mannequin home and has his way with it. And so, you come to question, why is he doing these things, these actions? As these actions speak for themselves. And you can't help but also think that, he's getting away with these things. These, little crimes, he's getting some mischief, is a good way to put it. And later on, as he commits these even bigger crimes, he dodges a bullet for each one. About halfway through, there's one instance where a lady in his apartment building, she and some others complain that there's a horrific smell coming from his apartment, and he'll come up with an excuse. Oh, it's just some bad meat, I gotta throw it out, it's no big deal, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just a sad, unfortunate thing that went under just a lot of people didn't see until it was too late. And there was I'm speaking on this lady who she's does a terrific job, this actress, as well, playing one of his neighbors. She contacts authority throughout the show, and they won't give her the time or day, and say, oh, we've talked to Jeff, and everything's okay. And man, it's just I don't know, so it takes place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where a lot of it took place. These incidences, settings are his grandmother's house, or Jeff will be at a gay nightclub, or he's at work. And another thing that I like to point out, that this film, or this series, it doesn't drag on. It's just his performance. I know this is how he was supposed to be portrayed, and it just feels like he's down in the dumps. He's got those. I got those vibes from him. So there's a lot of. I'd say he didn't have a rough adulthood. As far as him getting a job or anything like that, stuff. Life happens. Life happens to everyone, of course. But in his situation, life didn't always go his way. For instance, there was a flashback where I guess he ended up getting kicked out of the army, I think, because of his drinking habits, I think. And they just carry on from there. He just doesn't, life kicks him in the butt. And you see that clearly. It's a clear, picture that what you see this man go through. And towards the end of the series, you also feel for the victims and the victims' families as well. Even after Jeff's, gone from the show, and if you get a chance to watch it, you'll see why. The families and the people involved suffer in some sort of way, one way or another, his mother, Jeff Dahmer's mother in the show, is portrayed by Penelope Ann Miller, and she does a fine job. You know, she doesn't play a big role in it, but when she's on camera, she's just so cold-hearted to, you know, the Jeff's father and to Jeff himself. And she's going through, like I mentioned, she's going through some rough spots too. But she's the type of person in the show that runs away from her problems. And you see that clearly. Yeah, this is tough. It's actually a bit difficult for me to talk about as well, because I felt for the families, you know, the loved ones, lost loved ones, because a human being chose to end another human being's life multiple times. And it's just something to, well, I'm gonna remember this show for a while. It's definitely not for the young ones. If you're, you know, looking for a solid show to binge, this one's around. If you're into crime series. All right, till next time.